One. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Inside Movies Galore. I'm your host, David Strege, and welcome back, everyone, to another
Return of the Return of the Return of the Living Dead.
So,
or, depending on how you feel, Return of Bride of Reanimator.
The rebooting of Bride of Reanimator.
Well, did anyone want to start with what they thought the film was about?
I guess I can take this one if nobody else wants to jump in.
I'm assuming you're really familiar with this movie, so I'd like to hear your...
I'm not as familiar with this one as I am with part one, but I do like it. And I actually have some plot summaries that have been written that are like right in front of me. I just so happen to have. So
we're like prepared and shit. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's see.
How did he not die?
I'm impressed.
Okay, so here, this one says, Colonel Reynolds and his group of government scientists continue their work on reanimating the dead for military use. His son Kurt and his girlfriend Julie use Dad's security pass to sneak in and watch the proceedings. Later, when father and son have a disagreement, Kurt and Julie take off on a motorcycle, and Julie is killed in an accident. Grief-stricken, Kurt takes her body to the lab and brings her back to life. Kurt must help Julie deal with her new existence as military agents and local gang members try to find them. So if you didn't guess at all, she gets turned into a zombie.
An alternate title of the film. It seemed like a good idea at the time.
Right.
Well, what else was he supposed to do? You know, he's desperate, and that was a pretty sad scene, like the accident. Like serious dramas don't have as good tragic moments.
Well, and this film compared to the other two Return of the Living Dead, like this one takes itself much more seriously than the other two, and definitely doesn't have a whole lot of comic relief going on for it. And if it does, it's probably by accident.
It definitely has a darker tone to it, at least from my perspective. Red Raven, what were your thoughts on the film?
I didn't like it as much as the other two. Like you said, there wasn't as much comedy in it. It was just different.
It was emo as hell, right?
Yeah.
Total emo.
Brandon, what were your thoughts on the film? Was this a first-time watch for you?
Oh, all of these except for Necropolis are a first for me. I watched Necropolis multiple times.
Which is such a strange thing to say, by the way.
Though, oddly enough, I liked Necropolis better than I liked this one. I felt like the quality of the films have gone slowly down since the beginning. With the first one being, like I said, almost a trauma film. The second one kind of having a nostalgic feel for me, like films like Poltergeist and House and things from my youth. And one I was watching in a perpetual... it gave me a perpetual feeling of frustration, anger, and almost being offended at points. But that's more because of my mental health background. The other two, I wanted to slap the main character. I wanted to slap the guy, and I wanted to slap him the entire movie. and that feeling lasted the entire time. So overall, I thought that it was well done. I thought that it was well put together as far as makeup and effects, but I don't think I'll be watching it again in the near future.
Jake, why don't you? Was this a first time watch for you?
It was, and I can guarantee you I won't be rewatching. it was a mixed bag for me. In some ways, I actually feel like overall it was better than the second film. I didn't get that vibe of I'd rather be anywhere else that I got from the people involved in the second one. I felt like the people here seemed to be taking it a little more seriously. The fact that the movie itself took itself more seriously kind of, I agree that there was much less comedy, and I like the comedy of the first two, so that was a disappointment. But I thought there was a little bit of actual, I agree, there was some actual emotion involved, particularly on the part of Julie. What was her name?
Julie?
The actress.
Melinda Clark.
Yeah.
She says hi to everyone, by the way. I met her this weekend, and she wanted me to say hi to everyone. I told her we were reviewing her movie, and
very good.
She's like, yeah, tell everybody I say hi.
Cool. Hopefully she's actually watching, and we don't suck.
Yeah.
But I will say the one part that bugged me, I liked where they went with this. I thought it was a very interesting idea. I like the idea that by feeling pain, she was able to keep the hunger at bay. That was a nice touch. But I didn't want to see as much as I saw. Brandon, you lied when you said there was nothing in here that would bother me if I made it through the first two.
I didn't think it was as disgusting, but I'll admit that there's a lot that for people who do, and I've worked with a lot of people, and they've told me that the movie is very triggering to them, so they can't watch it because of all of the self-mutilation.
Yeah, that's something that does bother me, and I very much prefer to avoid those scenes in movies. So I will admit for the last half hour or so, I was hit or miss in how much I was watching the screen. But I kind of liked how they pulled it together at the end. And you know, it was not a... Overall, like I said, I feel like I got more out of it than the second one, but it's not one I'm going to want to see again anytime soon.
And Katie, what were your thoughts on the film while I'm at it?
Well, this is one I actually like. This one second best. I like part one the best, and then part three, and then part two last. So this is obviously not a first time watch for me on this one, and I actually like it for the reasons that Jake doesn't like it. Like the real kind of emo chick who's totally intrigued by this dark, macabre stuff and checking out, what they're doing in the lab. And I don't know, I just kind of relate to that character. And I think she's obviously turns into a super badass looking character that I would love to cosplay someday. I think that would be amazing. I just totally dig the look of her character, and I can relate to the whole like 90s teenager vibe quite a bit. Like I dig that. So overall, I thought the zombies in this one are probably the best looking zombies that we see in the series in terms of like makeup effects and stuff. And you're still, this is 1993, so we're still in the age of the practical effects. And I thought they did a really good job. Like it's clear that's where the budget went, was on the special effects. So between that and just the kind of the love story too, like it's a really cool date movie. I dig the morbid love story, So for those reasons, I really like this movie.
Yeah, that was something that came up a lot on the. I have the Best Round Video Blu-ray, and that was something that came up a lot in the interviews and like bonus content, was how many people find this movie like super romantic, which I can understand, but it still kind of surprised me a bit. I saw this for the first time shortly after I saw Return of the Living Dead Part 2 for the first time, and so it's kind of like, oh, this is totally different. What's going on? And well, like Jake said, I didn't really care for it that much at first, but it kind of grew on me a bit.
I think it does. I think it's one of those that the more you watch it, the better it gets.
Yeah, like I ended up having to see it, I think something like 4 or 5 times just to get. Whenever I collect a movie, I watch everything on the disc before I move it from the to watch pile, and so I think there were 2 or 3 commentaries on this Blu-ray, so I had to see it like a whole bunch of times, and it's like, okay, yeah, it's pretty good overall. I mean, I've certainly seen worse movies. Although, it's sort of funny, I wasn't originally going to get it until I started getting some of the other Vestron titles. And I think my Facebook post was something along the lines of, damn whoever decided to put numbers on the sides to hell. Because it's like number 4, and I think I had The Gate, which was like number 7 or 8. And it was like, there are missing ones.
Well,
So they got me.
Could be worse. They number the side of the Criterion ones too.
Yeah.
Well, not all of the Criterion movies are. I can't say good movies because Criterion wouldn't want them if they weren't like good or important movies. But well, let me put it this way: every time there's a Criterion sale, I look at the same 3 titles and then decide they're not worth it.
Gotta
Which
collect them
are?
all.
You have to tell us what the titles are.
The Blob, which it has fairly few extras, and I've already seen them all anyway, so it's just underwhelming. Night of the Hunter, which is always expensive, like no matter what, it's always like $10 more than the other Criterion releases, and I have no idea why. And then Night of the Living Dead, which I will probably eventually buy. It's just kind of like, Criterion sale, $22. And it's like, all right, how much is it on Amazon normally? $22. And it's like,
When it came out, and it was like, what, $20 at the time?
Yeah, it was. Amazon had it for like 17, and for some reason I passed on it, which was stupid. I've been forced to do that a lot because of my financial situation this past year, and it's been really upsetting. Like, for a couple days, they had the Hellraiser Scarlet box for like 66, and I should have jumped on that like hard, but no, now it's 100 again. God damn it!
I know
We've all had those moments.
I know that when I saw this film, I saw it in pieces first. So now that I've seen it in its full capacity, I agree that it is a very different tone. It is definitely a darker, emo-ish kind of feel, and I can definitely see that romantic, atmosphere, that morbid love that you're speaking of, Katie. Where she's fascinated with this ranger guy, who has a bike, and he has a daddy who is part of a military secret of some sort, and yeah.
The main character's dad is in charge of the program that's trying to weaponize the zombies, because now that the military's finally gotten their hands on the trioxin barrel zombies, this is what they wanted to do with them all along. So now we're finally seeing, it's like, well, what did they want to use them for? And they are not good at this.
No.
It's a horribly, horribly run base.
It looks like the inside of the Death Star, like, painted orange.
I was gonna say Carnosaur 3. Like, it looked like the set that they used for Carnosaur 3. Or Carnosaur 2.
It almost looks like the corridor inside the spaceship in Death Star, or Death. That O'Bannon movie that we watched.
Dark Star?
Yeah.
It looked a little bit higher budget than that.
Just a little. Well, like I said, they spent their budget on the makeup.
Who thought it was
makeup was cool?
Who thought it was insanely funny how the kid just kept waltzing into military security saying, yeah, my dad works here. Like, all right, go on ahead.
with a dead girl on the back of his motorcycle, like Weekend at Bernie's, just like leaning against him.
Yeah.
That's an eye, you know.
So we weren't Homeland Security at that point in time.
Still,
Pre 9/11 military security breaches.
I mean, you forget that you could actually carry lotion inside of an airport at that point in time.
that brings up a good point. They never crossed this over with Weekend at Bernie's. What kind of a movie would that have been?
Return of the Living Weekend at Bernie's.
That would have been an awesome film.
We could probably do better on that title, but you get the idea.
Shoot, Bernie was a dick when he was alive, so he'd probably be released as an undead.
The Bernie from the movie, just so we're clarifying.
If I had a favorite moment that I could pick out of this film, I would have to say that the moment where they're inside the military base, the two lovers, and she's just starting to feel some of her symptoms, and then that zombie attacks them, and they threw it against the wall, and then the skeleton of it split in half.
Yeah, that was awesome.
That was cool.
The head comes apart and you see the skull underneath. Yes.
So I saw bits and pieces of society in that moment.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That's the same director. So yeah, I totally agree with you there. And I think we should watch Society on this podcast sometime because I think it would make for a really good conversation.
I will have to find my.
It's definitely an interesting movie. I have the Arrow box that I somehow found long after it went out of print for.
Have you watched it?
Oh yeah, I've watched it. It's
Okay,
a really gross, bizarre thing.
Yeah, totally. Interesting is one way to put it.
Well, I don't know. That's a hard movie to really nail down because I mean, it's just total commentary meshed in disgustingness. So Brian Yuzna seems to always. Well, he seems to always find something gross to do. Let's just put it that way.
Well, or that pushes people a little bit, challenges your sensibilities. I think that's what the self-harm really does in this movie, because that is kind of a cringy thing, and some of what she does. I mean, imagining doing that to yourself. I had a friend in middle school that put a safety pin through her arm and clipped it, and I remember thinking how crazy that was. And you see her in this movie doing all of that stuff. I mean, I saw it in real life, a girl do it in real life, which was kind of disturbing, but that's what this invokes in people, that sort of that cringe. Because you can just imagine sticking, pins through your fingertips and shards of glass through your hand. I don't know. I thought it was really badass of her to deal with her pain in that way.
Think about Albert Fish, the serial killer. He stuck pins in his ball sack. So,
well, that's different.
He wasn't a zombie, maybe, right?
There was a guy in the band Pain who his sole job was to get on the stage with the band and light his loincloth on fire.
Mm-hmm.
They called him Balzac as the character. Was the name that he got by.
Dane, was this a first time watch for you?
Yes, it was, and I'm sorry for being late. I've had quite the day and quite the evening, and I just this second finished it. So yeah, my apologies for being late. It was a first time watch, and I have to say, out of all the Return of the Living Dead movies, this one's easily my favorite. I think that I like the serious tone. I think that the special effects makeup was light years ahead of the previous two. I really love the romance angle because I'm kind of a sucker for a tragic romance, and especially when it's in the confines of a horror film. And I really loved the two main characters, especially our leading lady. I thought she was quite good. And I really, what's funny is actually in the climax, I doubt anybody caught this, but this came out in 1993, and this was 5 years or 4 years before Titanic. And yet, like, the climax, I saw, okay, a guy in a kind of blondish, brownish hair, like light, brown or blondish hair, in a white shirt with a red-haired, beautiful woman in a dark coat moving through a confined space that's on lockdown with hordes of people in their way and one with a gun after them. I was just like, wow, that matches up eerily with Titanic, except that it came out first, which I thought was funny. But yeah, I've that's kind of how I felt with the first one, that it had enough pieces to make for a good dramatic piece, but it chose to go in a comedic direction, which is fine. But I felt like this. I liked the fact that this was more serious, and for me, it really worked.
Okay. And my favorite character, if I were to say is I would have to go with you can call me the Riverman.
Yeah,
he was cool. Like I was so sad when he died. Like,
yeah.
Although I loved his. This is another thing I loved about this movie. To elaborate on the special effects makeup, which was amazing, but I really loved the setup of the movie where they're trying to weaponize what was supposed to be a chemical weapon anyway. They're trying to weaponize their mistake, basically. And I love what happens to him, how he gets all I mean, it's like a cyborg, except not really. It looks kind of like those neck restraint things that they
The
like a neck.
exoskeleton.
Yes, exactly. But it's like when someone breaks their neck, but they're not like dead, or like they have some kind of spinal thing. How they get put in this like head contraption. I don't know what it's exactly called, but it's really freaky looking, and that seemed to be kind of a. Well, it seemed to be paying homage to that real life thing, and I've never seen a zombie look like that before, nor have I ever seen. The thing I really liked also about this, it kind of built on what the previous films did, but did it more, which was that the leading lady, she when she died, she was more or less intact, all things considered, and he got to resurrect her pretty fast. Plus, her strong emotional connection, keeping her brain, I guess, active or
under
whatever.
control.
So, yeah,
for longer.
So I thought that was a really neat angle to take on it, and plus, like, I love the way she looks when she's like with her the stuff sticking out of her and everything like that. That's begging to have people cosplay as her, and I'm sure people have.
Like, what I thought about that was that it was like it was so extreme. It was really jarring, at least for me.
Well, that's also what I liked about it, is because this was more of a serious piece, that the scenes like that carry gravitas instead of just gross out humor or something. And so like, and this is like the first time I think that I've ever really thought about the humanity of a zombie, even though like the ones in the previous ones could talk more and they were craftier. I felt like with these, even the less intelligent ones, they had a humanity to them, like when they're all locked up and getting tortured and stuff, which they can get tortured, which was, again, that's nice for.
And they foreshadow that right away when Julie and Kurt first are watching that first experimental thing, and she kind of shows sympathy for that, for like this is wrong what they're doing.
Yeah, and I think that's really great because it
really gets off on torture.
Well, I think it's really great that they show the fact that because that's why I typically don't like zombie movies all that much, because typically they're portrayed as just these mindless things that are just disposable, and you just the protagonist can rip through them like cotton candy, and it's just like they have nothing interesting about them in that particular, if you're going with that version of them. With this and with the other movies, but with this particularly, it's like, oh, these things have humanity to them and they're in pain, despite the fact that they're more or less unkillable. They're in pain the whole time, and I think that's a great tragic psychological complex for these characters to be in.
Although I was kind of, I wish that maybe they could have elevated some of the zombies' speech and whatnot more than the other two, in a sense, not to make it comical, but to keep that serious tone, because I'm missing the brains, more brains.
Well, I was honestly glad that wasn't there all that much. Like, I heard it a little, but they didn't need to overdo it, which was good, because this I felt like this took the series in a direction that it needed to go, because the second one ripped off the first one way too much, and it just didn't work. But like this, it is connected, but I don't know. This is just more what I had in my head when I think of, like, I mean, I was never really all that attracted to zombies, but it's like, if I were to do something, I'd want to do something more like this. And this handles the whole the humanity of the zombie a whole lot better than something like Warm Bodies did. But it's like, I don't know. It's just this really worked for me. I love like tragic romances within the confines of horror, which is why I love Bram Stoker's Dracula so much.
It's kind of
the Gary Oldman one? I thought that one was awesome. Yeah.
I adore that movie.
Y'all heard the thing now where Winona and Keanu are saying they're probably actually married because of that movie. But
what? I didn't understand most of that.
Yeah, I couldn't hear it.
Okay. Well, the thing right now where Keanu and Winona are coming out saying they were probably actually married during the wedding scene.
Yeah.
Oh, like legally?
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. It's funny though that one thing I will admit I really did like. I did like Julie's struggle. I did like the fact that they showed. To me, honestly, I almost you're right. They weren't targeting the brains so much. I kind of stopped thinking of zombies so much as I was thinking of them more like ghouls. And I
Which
don't know.
is appropriate, because zombies are ghouls. Zombies originally were people under a spell, like a voodoo hypnosis, and then ghouls were reanimated corpses.
Right.
And Night of the Living Dead calls them ghouls properly, and then somehow the two things got merged together. But yeah, ghoul is if you want to be super technical about it, ghoul is the proper term.
Yeah, and Julie was definitely, she needed the blood and the flesh and whatnot. And like I said, they did play a lot into her humanity. And even Riverman, they played a little bit on that at the end, because they were able to speak to him even after. But it is kind of funny. The other movie I can think of where that was the case was Warm Bodies. And I just thought it was interesting that all you guys hated on that one so much and love this one so much, and I just thought that was kind of interesting.
This is pretty childish. Like I thought a lot of it was stupid, honestly.
It's childish. It's basically like Twilight, but with zombies, and it wasn't sincere. And like, this had some sincerity to it, and like actual emotional weight, and like, love cures the zombie. Are you kidding me? It's just, I don't know. I thought that was so stupid.
I did think the ending.
At least for this one, it seemed like the harder she loved him, or the more she stayed in that frame of mind, the more control she had over, like, at least keeping herself from reacting like a zombie.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think that's a really, again, you're going to call me a sentimental old fluff, as Rufus D. Firefly would say, but I think that's a nice element to have, because, in real life, if one's love is strong enough, then that can get you through a lot of hard times. And in their case, it's sort of, and tough experiences do strengthen bonds, but, I think that's a nice way to reinforce that notion, because I really believe that that's true.
When you speak of ghouls, that makes me think of an older film called Mr. Sardonicus.
Mm. If you want to, if you guys want to see zombies what they were, well, there's obviously White Zombie, and then there's I Walked with a Zombie, which is an amazing film. And neither of those, I haven't seen White Zombie, unfortunately, but
I've had White Zombie. I picked up White Zombie at Exclusive Company sometime last year, and it's been in my pile since, oh my god, probably last fall, if not longer.
I know. I need
to see White Zombie.
But like for sure, I Walked with a Zombie. That movie is about like original like voodoo people under a voodoo hypnosis. That's that's what those zombies are, and that's an amazing film.
One of my favorite zombie films, if I had to choose, is actually from the Blind Dead saga by Amand Diasorio. Tombs of the Blind Dead, where you actually have zombies riding on horses.
Hmm.
It's kind of like the White Walkers in Game of Thrones. I think they have like zombie horses.
Which of the Living Dead movies, the Romero ones, I cannot remember which one it was. Was it Land of the Dead? It was the one where they actually had the zombie that they had trained.
That's Day of the Dead.
Day of the Dead.
Day of the Dead.
I
can't remember which one of. Like,
did he have a red shirt and use a gun?
And I thought that
Day of the Dead.
In one of the Romero productions, they actually used various locations in Northridge Mall here in Milwaukee.
They did?
Yeah.
No, they did not use Northridge Mall.
I was trying because somebody once told me that and I whether or not that was true, I don't know. It's just something that someone told me once.
No, the mall. They did use a real mall to film that, but it wasn't Northridge.
I'm thinking more the remake.
The remake.
I think the remake is supposed to take place in Milwaukee.
Oh, okay.
Perhaps. I can't recall because I sort of boycott remakes of my favorite movies. But I suppose that information could be found.
I haven't seen the remake of Poltergeist because I kind of refuse.
Yeah, I'm kind of that way about Dawn of the Dead.
I'm not going to see the Poltergeist one. I did see the Dawn of the Dead one because it was... I found the Shout Factory one with the slipcover very cheap. So...
that was really good. I thought that the remake was done very well.
It was passable. It was more action movie-y.
Yeah, but still, I thought it was done very well and very tastefully.
If you guys want to see a really good zombie action film, there's a movie called Daylight's End, which was actually made in part with some people here in Charlotte, and it was really good. I was very surprised. It's it is an action movie, but it has zombies in it, and it's a really good blending of the two.
Just figured out one thing that might get me to watch this again. Y'all may have seen in the opening credits or whatever that one of the producing partners was actually Bandai Visual. So
yeah, I did see that.
If I could get a hold of the Japanese dub, I might want to see that.
That'd be interesting.
You gotta see it in the original Japanese.
Yes,
the original Japanese.
That was involved. They may have done them concurrently. But they do get big name casts for a lot of those.
Actually, I would rewatch that. I would rewatch the entire trilogy if they were dubbed into Japanese, just because it would be hilarious to watch.
Okay, I got
My entire annoyance at the main characters of the movie would be totally forgotten because I'd just be laughing my butt off at it.
Is the way that they used to on VHS. Where you'd see their mouths moving, and then like a minute later you'd hear the sounds that are coming out of their mouths.
Mhm.
That's the only way to do it.
Is it like in Futurama when they have that one? They have an anthology episode in Futurama, and they do a segment in the Japanese style. And at one point, Amy's like, "Perhaps that's why we can understand their languages, even though we're speaking." And then a totally different voice says, "English, like us."
So, is there anything else anyone wants to add?
I did really enjoy the one character, the homeless man. I did thoroughly enjoy his character. To me, that is what redeemed the movie for me. I'm usually fascinated with films that have a mental illness component. That's sort of my sick fascination because of the work I do. But at the same time, certain things I have a harder time looking at when it comes to self-mutilation, things like that, because I deal with that a lot out of the hospitals and the ERs. And it's definitely it's hard to really get to enjoy in that level. But the good thing was I didn't really care much for any of the characters except for the homeless guy. So found that scene where he was mechanized was awesome.
Red Raven, if there was any character that you might have liked in this film.
Sorry, everyone. I lost you there. My computer decided to just randomly freeze, and so I had to switch to my phone.
So there really wasn't any particular character that I liked over the other. I thought they were all pretty well evened out.
Okay.
I really liked the leading lady a lot. I thought she was beautiful, and she had a good screen presence and good switching between excited and tragic, and full of the bloodlust of the zombie, at the appropriate moments.
Okay.
I also enjoyed her character. She's my favorite character. Actually, one of my more favorite characters in all zombie movies that I like, and I like the zombie genre quite a bit. It's one of my favorite genres. But yeah, her character especially. There's not a lot of other characters that we see in any horror movies quite like her. So I like the uniqueness, and of course, I love the special effects. Just looking at everything that went into, her costuming and her makeup and everything. Definitely one of my favorites.
Well, and you can tell that they were proud of those things because after once the film ends, the first people to get credited are the special effects makeup people, which
Absolutely.
for a movie like that, you can completely understand why.
Oh yeah.
When I was saying I wasn't a huge fan of zombies, I'm talking more about the creatures themselves rather than the movies, because there's a lot of great movies in the zombie genre. It's just like depends on, for me it's like, I like horror films that tend to have more intelligent or more interesting antagonists or monsters, or whatever. And but that still doesn't mean that an unintelligent zombie can't still be in a good movie. Like Night of the Living
and I
Dead.
think the focus is less on the zombie and more on the threat of the zombie.
Yes,
when they're
exactly.
the Night of the Living Dead variety of zombies or the Dawn of the Dead variety. Like Romero's zombies are my favorite kind of zombies. My favorite zombie movie is Dawn of the Dead because I like the way it really was one of the first looks at how we build a life in the zombie apocalypse. Like Night of the Living Dead, it happens in one night, so you just see the initial reaction. Dawn of the Dead takes us on an extended time period, with how do we function in this post-apocalyptic situation. And I love how that brings out struggles between people in this like new world where we start over.
Instead of milking it to absolute exhaustion like The Walking Dead does.
Well, that's debatable, I guess, for some. I watch The Walking Dead. I'm a fan of it only because I don't know, it keeps my interest still, and I think it's done great things in terms of like mainstreaming some of the artistry of horror and getting people
if it's
to accept
popular,
it
why not? If people are interested and they're going to make money.
Well, yeah, and it takes the horror genre, and it in a way sort of normalizes it. And normalize it maybe isn't the right word, but I think horror has always been kind of this othered genre, and shows like that, or like Dexter, like things where like people really get invested in these shows, it kind of brings horror to like the forefront. Like how many horror movies are winning Oscars or getting like any recognition for what they do. Like I think shows like this really brings horror to the forefront in terms of the artistry that goes into making these films and these productions and these TV shows and stuff, and shows people that horror is an important genre.
It is.
I agree with it I agree on that level, like that it's been helping horror become more like, I guess, visible, accepted in mainstream culture. But I personally find the show just like agonizingly boring. Like I stopped watching after season 2 because like I just couldn't take it anymore. Like it was bad.
A lot of people don't like the soap opera-ness of the character development and how that all works. I personally do like that, but I think that's what I like about Dawn of the Dead also. There's a lot of just coping scenes. How do we deal with life now? And I think I like it contained within a shopping mall in the 70s for different reasons. Like The Walking Dead definitely is way drawn out in terms of the story and the journey and everything like that. But I think it's coming to its appropriate end, or its sunset, if you will. And it's probably
going away.
I personally kind of hope it's ending fairly soon, because it's kind of like I'm sort of tired of seeing it around.
Well, if you're not watching it, what do you care, though?
Yeah, that's true.
The only negative thing
I'm tired of people trying to like copy it in every project they do that involves zombies, and having it be like the only thing in some horror sections.
And you're gonna have that regardless of if it's The Walking Dead or some other thing. Like there's always gonna be that, pop culture thing that people hate it just to hate it or whatever. But I think it's important to just take what you like and leave the rest.
The only thing that I can say negative about the Walking Dead is there was a character that I remember hearing about. I think she was a woman, and apparently at some of the horror conventions, she was charging people $250 when she was only in 2 episodes.
Well, I sure hope nobody was paying that, because I can tell you at Horror Hound this weekend, the Walking Dead people were on the loudspeaker, basically begging people to come to their tables. Their tables were empty. There was no lines whatsoever. And I've been to cons, even back in Cincinnati in March for Horror Hound, there were lines wrapping around for Walking Dead stars, and they couldn't convince anybody really to come up. They had no lines whatsoever. But you also had Robert Englund in attendance, Bruce Campbell in attendance.
Fuck everybody else then. Damn.
Yeah, they were. That's what people were there. Who they were there to see. I think the Walking Dead characters are starting to, wear out that, initial push.
Well, they were
like,
charging.
yeah, we've seen these people before, and they charge way too damn much.
Yeah. I went to Wizard World in Chicago this weekend. I made it, hooray! And David Duchovny and Gillian Anderson were there. Duchovny was charging $90 for an autograph, and Scully was charging like a flat $100.
Now, were they doing pictures included, or did you have to pay extra for a picture on top
I
of it?
think you might have had to pay extra for a picture. Like, I just saw the price, laughed, and moved on.
Well, usually the
like,
bigger the star, the
Well, some of the stars were kind of, I don't know. I had a really mixed experience because I thought, okay, I can't afford any of these autographs, but I'm gonna at least meet the people this time,
I was able to get Brad Twigg, the director of Wrestle Massacre, at one point in time, to go up to Meatloaf and get a pictured autograph of him for my fiance's father. And I know it was like a flat $100.
For Meatloaf?
Yeah, it was. Well, Ernie Hudson was there. I think Ernie Hudson was only doing. I think Ernie Hudson was something like 30 or 40. Like, it wasn't too bad. The main characters.
I think Alice Cooper was like $50 when I met him to sign. Like, a photo op was like 50, and a signature was like.
Well,
Michael
Rooker was there too, and he wanted 60, but like it included like a photo or whatever. Like, he'd sign anything or give you something to sign for 60. He was actually fairly cool to meet, but some of the stars, like 3 of the Boy Meets World people, like, oh, you're not buying an autograph? You can't even come and say hello. Like, I met, like, Ryder Strong was like the only cool one. I was like, yeah, I thought you were the best part of Cabin Fever, and he seemed to be kind of excited about that, and he liked my costume too. I should have asked him, it's like, hey, do you do podcasts? Because he was my best celebrity encounter that day. I probably shouldn't have tried to cut my teeth on Ernie Hudson, though, because it was just, I got, like, nervous and had nothing to say. And so it's like, oh, wow, it's Ernie Hudson. I didn't know you were in The Crow. Ah, stupid. Yeah.
I met Tom Savini this weekend, so I had a fangirl moment, too.
Gotta check your IMDb before you go up to those guys so you have something to talk about.
Well, I kind of did that for Ryder Strong, because I remembered him in Cabin Fever, but I hadn't seen it for like 8 years, so I was like, that was you, right? He was kind of laughing, like, yeah. It's like, oh, okay, good. My mind does things when I'm nervous. And he was very cool and understanding. But a fair amount of the other people were kind of like, yeah, you're not paying for stuff, bruh. Christy Carlson Romano was cool, though, the voice of Kim Possible, and Ren from Even Stevens, if anybody remembers that. Like, I was kind of like, oh, cool, so what are you doing now? It's like, well, I mean, you can search online, and it's like, oh.
Do your research.
Well,
yeah, Wizard World is ridiculous on their pricing, for pretty much everything, and it's so huge, and the celebs are out of hand. Yeah, we were just having this discussion in the Horror Hound group, like, we're all kind of feeling our light pocketbooks from how much the celebs are charging now for autographs and how much it's increased in such a short period of time, like 5 years or less, where you used to be able to get an autograph and a free picture for $40 from a celebrity, and now they're $40 a piece.
It sucks because if you want to go, then you got to pay to get in, and it's really expensive. Well, that's the
problem. It's pricing the normal everyday Joe. It's pricing us out of being able to do it, or we have to just not do celebrity meet and greet meetings, or we don't spend money with the vendors, and neither one of those things is a good solution, because without without celebrities being able to draw a crowd and make some money, that throws it off balance. And without having the vendors, that's a huge loss too. So I don't know. It's kind of a tough conundrum for us convention goers, because we want to be able to do these things, but it's just it's pricing most people out. I mean, Robert Englund was $100 for an autograph.
Well, actually, I think
did not get Robert Englund's autograph.
I can kind of give Englund a little bit of a break, because he's probably signed so much stuff, and he's very old at this point. Like, it might. I almost wonder if it like hurts to sign for like older celebrities. You know what I mean?
No, I think what it is that they can get $100 a signature, so they do. People are willing to pay it. As long as people are willing to pay it, they're going to pay it. And the problem is that a lot of people blame like Norman Reedus and the Walking Dead cast for coming in and charging these exorbitant amounts of money and bringing in the the people off the street that don't normally come to horror conventions, but now they love The Walking Dead, so they do, and they come in willing to pay these top prices for this stuff because all they want to do is come there and meet Norman Reedus. They don't care about the rest of it.
Fuck that terrible show. Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's not The Walking Dead, it was going to be something else. But that has driven up the market. You know, the demand is still there, and the prices are going up. And when you put a celebrity like, I mean, I've gotten Linnea Quigley's signature for free on several pieces, you know, at an event where I think I paid $20 to be there. So when you go from that to she's charging $40 a signature because she's in a room with a bunch of other celebs who are doing the same thing, you know, it kind of shows you.
And she's having like medical problems or something too. So I don't really.
Ago, I'm talking about like 2 years ago. Yeah,
James Gunn and Lloyd Kaufman don't charge for their autographs.
Yep, Lloyd never charges. You don't even have to buy anything. He'll sign whatever you bring him. He's super cool about it. And the thing about that is, we're talking about, this is Trauma Entertainment, the longest running independent film company to date. And he's kind of a big deal, and it's not a company that makes a ton of money, but he's willing to stand out there for, 6 to 8 hours on his feet at his age to sign and to meet people and to take pictures. And the guy's a hero at the conventions because nobody else is doing that.
I know. Well, and I'm going to Dragon Con over Labor Day weekend, and unfortunately he will not be there because he's busy shooting his next movie, which
they actually just wrapped, and they're now in the editing phase.
Oh, good. Yeah, kind of a short turnaround.
I really hope I can encounter him and get something signed like soon, because I totally messed up that last time because I've already told the story. Like I thought I was being nice, but I should have been less nice.
I think Celeste went out to be in one of his movies.
Yeah, she went out for the filming.
Yeah.
Of, Shakespeare's Shitstorm.
Yep.
I draw the line at like poop and stuff. So not gonna be checking that one out.
Well, glad to see that we have standards.
Well, that's why I didn't want to be on Salo. Remember, way back in the beginning. It's like, Salo, can't we just do a Serbian film?
And I thought that was so funny because everybody on the internet was...
Like something with taste.
Well, but everybody on the internet was like freaking out about a Serbian film when it came out. And then, I watched it after having heard all the hype and everything. And I had already seen Salo. And honestly, when I watched it, I was like, that was it. I don't know. It didn't shock me anywhere near as much as it did other people.
Like Homer and like the giant Australian beer. I'll have a giant beer. Pulls out a pitcher and it's like, what? No, it's pretty big, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty, I think on that note.
Did anybody notice? Sorry about our tangent there, everyone. Anybody notice that this one didn't have like really awesome music like the other two?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. The soundtrack is poopy. There's
surprisingly underwhelming.
Yeah.
And wasn't it also kind of weird where the gang members like finally catch them in the sewer, and she comes out looking like that, and the guy's like, "Yeah." It's like, why would you not immediately nope out of there? Like,
because she's hot as fuck, man.
Well,
that's why.
You'd be right about that.
I did not feel that way. I would have taken one look at that and been like, "Oh no! I know what most of that stuff would feel like."
And she would have ate your brains.
She pulled his fucking head off.
I draw the line at sharp objects.
She was eating some brains in a different manner of speaking before she became a zombie.
Did anyone else wonder why it took that group so long to track them through the tunnels? It was like, what was it, like 15 minutes before they even left their car to go in? I thought they were in
tunnel like Machina.
I thought it was. I had trouble believing that they caught them at all because, I mean, the sewer. It looked like that was a big sewer.
They had to cock their covered wagon.
Did anybody else think that the leader of that little gang, Santos, would have been so much better if he was Danny Trejo?
I thought he looked.
Oh yeah.
He did look a fair amount like Danny Trejo.
No, he was like the Walmart version of Danny Trejo.
Walmart Danny Trejo.
Great value.
Yeah.
I'm so happy we continued the conversation and got such wonderful phrases. Walmart Danny Trejo.
Hashtag.
How are you alive?
Alrighty. On that note, I think we're going to end the conversation. I think we've kind of drawled it out.
I think we covered most of the important stuff. Overall, see it once, see what you think. Some of this stuff's pretty gross, so be warned.
There was actually one little thing I wanted to mention that we didn't talk about that's really just an observation on my part, was that I this time around noticed that it kind of mimicked like the perfectly dysfunctional high school relationship, and sort of was like a metaphor for like maybe when you graduate high school and you have to go your separate ways, let her go away to college. In this case, let her be a zombie and like let her go and die. And I just sort of picked up on that that high school romance piece, and I was like, oh, it's like multi-layered and had something to say.
Yeah, and I liked that I liked that what you said, like the gross, kind of disturbing violence in there. It's like, well, it's good that we can have a zombie film that has that level of violence that has the intended effect, as opposed to like, I think there's just such a glut of the zombie genre within horror that very little of it, at least for me, is effective anymore, because it's just so overused. But I think that's a wonderful thing. When I'm a big proponent of violence in movies that is effective and has the appropriate amount of pathos, and isn't just there for its own sake, like something that really carries the story and impacts it in a way that something less wouldn't do. And I feel like this does that.
Totally.
Yeah, this movie did a fairly good job of that. Like, although it was still almost cartoonish violence in a lot of the scenes, wasn't it? Like very Dead Alive-y kinda.
I don't know. I mean,
Still the early 90s, though.
It wasn't really played that way, though, which is, I think, what I liked about it, is that it allowed you to get the intended effect from it rather than just saying, oh, it's a campy good time, even though I do like campy good times.
Alrighty. So on that note, I think we're going to wrap this up here. So I'm going to start with you, Dustin, this time around. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Well, I live in Milwaukee, and I collect horror-related anything I can find. So figures, prints, which I am out of room for, yet that did not stop me from buying like 5 of them this weekend. I try to show my stuff off on my Instagram, DHRHunter. I haven't posted in a million years, but we're gonna do that eventually. I'm also supposed to be an editor for Inside Movies Galore, and have been lazily working on film reviews for a while, so eventually we're gonna do that. I just got into grad school, like I had been planning to for quite a while. I don't know if I announced that last week or not. I can't remember. So that's kind of what my week has been about, like just planning all that out. I started doing a handful of like collection videos where I do like a breakdown of either what I picked up this past week or just something cool from my collection. And so those are eventually going to end up on either my own channel, which I have a working title for, or on some of Septum Sin's videos, edited collection videos. So what I'm thinking about doing for that next piece of content is, so there was a sale on eBay where you got like a substantial amount of cash back on everything you bought for a couple days. And so I picked up a bunch of titles that I was really excited for, from some big seller on eBay. And then on top of that, that week I picked up some stuff from Best Buy. And then I thought I'd mash that in with what I got at the convention and a few other surprises. So it was kind of a busy week for acquiring things. And I'd like to really get that going as soon as the dust has settled on enough of my other stuff. I'm also looking at getting the Cinema Snob as a guest on one of the shows that I'm on. So
if you do, can I be on that, because I'm a big fan?
As long as you don't piss him off.
Nah, he's cool.
So yeah, I spent a lot of time I was at Wizard World this weekend, and I spent a lot of the time just talking to people from booths, trying to get pointers on creating content, or just seeing if they'd maybe be somebody who would be interested in hanging out and talking about a movie or one of their other subjects of interest. I met this guy from the horror prop, from the movie props preservation, whatever they were called, HSPPA, Horror and Sci-Fi Prop Preservation Association. I talked to that guy for a while, and their booth was really cool. They had a Shrieker head from the second Tremors movie on the table, and the thing was pretty big. The coolest part was, behind the counter, they had Jason's machete from Part 7, and they let me hold it and get some pictures with it in my slasher costume, and that was pretty rad. So I had a exciting time, and I want to do a breakdown of that as well, possibly on my channel or wherever it ends up. I just need to get off my butt and film it. So yeah, there's a lot going on in Dustin Land.
Red Raven, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Red Raven?
Oh, I'm Red Raven, and I'm from Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. I book shows in the Milwaukee area, and I'm also a dead girl at Deadger's Dark Coffin Classics.
Awesome. And Katie, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do and where you're from?
Sure, I'm Katie Cadaver, and I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I'm a body positive horror artist and alternative model. You can find me at patreon.com or on Instagram at Third Eye Open. That's 3RDEYE0PEN. I'm also the makeup artist for horror punk band Ratbat Spider. You can listen to them at ratbatspider.bandcamp.com, and you can also see them coming up on September 22nd at Club Garibaldi in Milwaukee. Also, I am a dead girl for Deadger's Dark Coffin Classics, and you can catch episodes at vimeo.com/ddcc. I also perform and produce for Grindhouse Tees Burlesque Productions. You can find us at facebook.com/Grindhouse Tees. You can also find us this Saturday, September 1st in Madison, Wisconsin at the Broome Street Theater. I'll be there performing with Gone Rogue Burlesque. So come and see us on Saturday. I am also a Tromat with Trauma Entertainment, and I was just hanging out in Tromaville this weekend at Horror Hound and Mask Fest in Indianapolis, and it was a really great time, and we had a blast. I got to meet one of my big idols, Tom Savini, and he complimented my makeup work and my female Leatherface cosplay, which was inspired by Part 2, which he did the makeup effects for. So that was really exciting. And I also met Melinda Clark, who's the star of our film from tonight, Return of the Living Dead Part 3, and she wanted me to tell you all that she says hi. I know Dane wasn't on when I said that part, so I got to meet her, and that was nice.
Hopefully she was watching, and we were good.
Well, I know that Tom Savini...
my vocabulary fails me.
I know that Tom Savini was having some health problems a little bit because I know I put money into his Nightmare City remake.
Well, he was doing really great when I saw him this weekend. He was a pleasure.
Well, maybe I'll start seeing something from that. But anyways, Dane, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, what to do?
Let's see. I'm Dane Kyle. I'm a filmmaker out of Charlotte, North Carolina. Going to Dragon Con this week, this Labor Day weekend, to try and meet some celebrities and network, to try and raise awareness about myself and my work. I've got 2 shorts included in 2 different horror anthologies, which are For We Are Many from Hex Media and Clownsploitation from Troma. And then, working on my girlfriend's web series, Asylum Origins Harley, and what else am I doing? I'm kind of at a crossroads where I'm, reassessing what all I'm doing and what all is worth doing at this juncture, and because I've got so much, that I can do.
You can defiantly try to do it all, like me.
Yeah, well, that's the problem.
And in turn, do nothing.
That's exactly it. I'm trying to.
Well, when you put it like that.
That's exactly my point, though. Is I'm trying to whittle it down and prioritize, and just try to, keep life going as well as keep projects going.
Alrighty. So going over to Brandon, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do and where you're from?
Well, my name is Brandon. I have multiple hands in multiple areas, most of them appropriate. One of them, of course, is the YouTube channel Septum Sen versus the World, where I work with the love of physical media, be it music, books, games, etc. Matter of fact, this time on the channel, we've added game releases to our upcoming release videos, and we plan on adding a few other items come the next video. I figure we'll eventually cover all of those forms of physical media that anybody would want to know about. Of course, we're also talking about top 15 lists, which our next one should be top 15 covers, musical covers, in honor of Aretha Franklin and her passing. And
covers better than the original.
Yes, covers that are better than the original.
Disturbed Land of Confusion.
I wouldn't say better, but I do like it.
The other thing,
Carpenter
of course,
Brute, Maniac.
I do occasional reviews for Inside Movies Galore, and the occasional other odd job. Of course, as a final note, because we were talking about a lot of different undead and zombie-related media, I would encourage anybody who is into tabletop gaming to check out an old series called All Flesh Must Be Eaten, which is a perfect tabletop zombie survival horror game. System.
Andrew's led a few games of that at our undergrad school in the past.
It is a very fun system when it comes to one-offs or two-offs when you're playing in the zombie apocalypse types of worlds.
And Jake, did you want to add to the fray and say who you were and what you do?
All right, I'm Jake. I also guest on Septum Sen versus the World, and we also have I do have my own channel, Kotobuki Jake. I've not been good yet about posting videos to it, but there are a few. It's more of a nature-oriented one, either a walk and talk of local areas, or if I find a critter that I want to talk about. I've got a couple of videos that need to get posted. Just need to work on that more. And otherwise, I do work in a couple different, very, very different gigs. One of them is media related, and one of them is more nature related. And when I'm not busy doing that, just enjoying media in all its forms, music, movies, what have you. And I guess that's about it. I'm sitting here listening to all you guys talking about conventions you're going to and wishing I could have gone to Otakon I know is
Oh,
nearby.
that'd be nice.
Some of these, you know, but whatever. One of these days.
Well, me, I know I work on the weekends, so I don't ever get a chance to go out to some of these horror fests or burlesque things at all because my job doesn't let me do that. So, but my name is David Streggy, and I run Inside Movies Galore. I blog at Movies Galore of Milwaukee, and but lately I've been paying attention more to my YouTube channel. You can check out my last 2 reviews on 2 Norwegian short films called Dead Bait and Hypnagogia from a Norwegian filmmaker by the name of Lars Erik Lai or Lay. If I get that wrong, I'm sorry. But in any case, check those out. Check some of the other reviews out on the channel, and stay tuned next week. I'm sure we'll have something much more exciting and thrilling. So why don't everyone say good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Subscribe.